In 1943, a group of Allied prisoners was told they would receive a standard medical checkup. They never came back. What happened to them inside that building, deep in the frozen wilderness of Manchuria, was so horrific that the scientists performing the experiments were ordered never to speak of it. For decades, it stayed buried. History almost erased it entirely. This is the story of Unit 731 and what they found when the walls finally came down. It was 1932. Japan had just seized control of Manchuria in northeastern China, and the Imperial Army was building something it publicly called a Water Purification and Disease Prevention Unit. But behind that bureaucratic name was one of the most sinister research programs in human history. General Shirō Ishii, a brilliant, ambitious, and deeply disturbed military surgeon, convinced Japanese high command that biological and chemical weapons could win the war. He just needed test subjects, and he had an unlimited supply. The facility at Pingfang covered over 6 square kilometers. It had its own airstrip, railway line, and more than 150 buildings, including specially designed cells called Maruta blocks. Maruta. In Japanese, it means logs. That's what the scientists called the prisoners. Not people, logs. Chinese civilians, Soviet soldiers, American POWs, Koreans, they were taken here and never told why. And what happened inside those walls defied every principle of human decency. Prisoners were infected with plague, cholera, typhoid, and anthrax. Not to cure them, but to study how fast the diseases spread and how badly they could destroy a human body. Some were subjected to vivisection, surgery performed while they were fully conscious, without anesthesia. Why? Ishii believed that anesthesia would corrupt the data. Others were frozen alive, their limbs plunged into tanks of ice water to test frostbite thresholds. Researchers would then smash the frozen arms with a rod to hear the sound. But this was only the beginning. Prisoners were placed in pressure chambers until their eyes burst from their skulls, all to understand how altitude affected the human body. Others were spun in centrifuges to the point of death. Some were hung upside down for days to study how long a person could survive. There were poison gas experiments, flamethrower tests, grenade tests. At least 3,000 people, and by some estimates over 10,000, were killed inside Unit 731. Not a single one survived. When the war ended in August 1945, Ishii had a problem. The Soviets were advancing fast, and the evidence inside Unit 731 could not be allowed to fall into enemy hands. He ordered everything destroyed. The buildings were dynamited, documents were burned, prisoners who were still alive were executed. Ishii and his team fled back to Japan, where they waited for the Americans to come for them. And then the situation became even more disturbing. The Americans did come, but not to arrest them. General Douglas MacArthur, overseeing the occupation of Japan, made a deal. In exchange for all of Unit 731's research data, the plague notes, the frostbite studies, the biological weapon formulas, the United States granted Ishii and his entire team complete immunity from prosecution. Ishii was never tried as a war criminal. He died in 1959 in his own home at the age of 67. The US government kept the Unit 731 files classified until the 1990s. Japan did not officially acknowledge Unit 731 until 1997, more than 50 years after the war ended. In 2002, a Tokyo district court ruled that Japan's biological warfare program was indeed real and caused civilian deaths, but denied compensation to any of the surviving families. The Pingfang compound still exists today. Part of it has been turned into a museum. Hundreds of thousands of visitors walk through its corridors every year. But most of the world still doesn't know this story. The data from Unit 731, bought with the lives of thousands of innocent people, was filed away in military archives. Some researchers believe it was quietly used to advance American biological weapons research throughout the Cold War. We may never know the full truth. Unit 731 didn't just reveal what one nation was capable of in wartime. It revealed what happens when governments decide that some lives are worth less than data, when the men who ordered the experiments walked free, and the men who suffered in those cells were never even given names. History almost let that stand. Almost.